May say so.
Yeah, it looks like it's working out for them.
Seems like it's correctly positioned for the tournament.
Looks like it's working out for everybody else.
Both teams on it. Craig Bargo has picked up a draw, so he's at 9-2-1. Surely he needs to win out to make top 8. For Kent, he may have a loss to give, depending on how things break.
How many Eldrazi Scions do you think that Bargo controlled in his draw?
Between the creatures?
Like 100 Eldrazi Scions, do you think? A Worship Mirror?
Could be. Kent Ketter with Eye of Ugin. He'll play an Eldrazi Sky Spawner on turn 2 first. Bargo started out on a Temple, but no Mimics or anything like that on his side.
Yeah, when you have Temple, your opponent has Eye, and your opponent has the first action, there's a good chance that you're going to be playing from behind.
And it is the 2-4, the turn 2 mana to 4 mana, the 4-4 on turn 2. That's the Thought-Knot Seer from Craig Bargo. It's the draw that everyone's scared of out of this deck. Take a look at Kent's hand. We see Reality Smasher, Drowner of Hope, and Eldrazi Displacer.
Yeah, and then the Eye for Bargo there is exactly how you want to catch up against your opponent's Eye. It's really the only card that does it.
So see what he takes here. Smasher is the best one to curve out with. The other two are both cards that have been thought of as the trumps in the mirror. But he'll just go for the pound-for-pound king. Eldrazi's the Reality Smasher. We'll take that one and pass back to Kent.
Yeah, Reality Smasher is the best aggressive card in that hand, though notably Kent is left with the combo of Eldrazi Displacer and Drowner of Hope.
And we saw, certainly in Devin Kepke's match earlier, that can get very out of hand. As Ketter swings for 2 with Sky Spawner, plays a Displacer for 1 mana, and passes.
Yeah, it's you know, it's gonna be a couple turns before Kent is able to put a Drowner of Hope into play. Right now, access to 5 mana with the Scion, of course, that could be sacrificed, and we can get to 6 next turn. I'm actually somewhat skeptical of plucking the Reality Smasher out of the hand for Kent. It does hit very hard, but the combo hits very hard as well.
Big draw for Ketter. Bargo swung with the Thought-Knot Seer, and Kent, fresh off the top of his deck, cast a Path to Exile on the Thought-Knot Seer. That'll take care of the 4-4 and net Ketter a card.
In terms of things to do this turn, that was probably the best top deck for Kent. Cleanly deals with Bargo's entire board, replaces itself.
We'll see if Bargo has a replacement Thought-Knot Seer. Might have been the reason he didn't take one of Kent's higher impact cards. He'll play Cavern of Souls, and it looks like Eldrazi Sky Spawner for 1, making a sign and passing back the turn.
I believe I spotted a Dismember in Bargo's hand, so that looks to be his plan to deal with the interaction between the Displacer and the Drowner.
If he ever gets the chance, though, Kent is going to try to take that one out of Craig's hand first. It'll be his own Thought-Knot Seer. And now we'll get our first look at Craig's holdings.
If I'm Ketter, I'm definitely suspicious of the fact that I was left with that interaction in my hand.
Right?
So
yeah, that's very good in the mirror.
Right. I definitely like leading with the Thought-Knot Seer here.
Look at that guy. Got an eyeball growing out of his chest.
Many eyes around that eyeball. The art on the Kozilek Brood is actually extremely unsettling to look at closely.
See, in response to Thought-Knot Seer, Bargo is going to dismember away the Displacer. So now he uses that kill spell to break up the combo. Just lands in Craig's hand, Outercar Wastes, Plains, and a Eye of Ugin. Kent did exile a card out of Craig's hand. Didn't get a chance to see that one.
Yeah, Bargo just hanging out with a whole bunch of lands from there.
Looks like it was a Drowner of Hope that he took out of Bargo's hand. And that's, yeah, Bargo would have been able to cast it last turn. He did not have 6 mana because that island in play was put into play by Path to Exile, so it was always tapped.
Right. So the really bad thing about Bargo's position is with those 3 lands in play, even by putting them all onto the battlefield, he still needs to sacrifice the Scion to activate Eye of Ugin. A lot of ground to make up here.
And he's facing down 8 power from Ketter. After the Thought-Knot Seer, Ketter makes a 3-3 Endless one with his remaining mana. Land for Bargo. Did he draw a threat? Doesn't look like we go back to Ketter. And now it is Drowner of Hope from Kent Ketter. Great at tapping out his opponent, but Bargo has nothing to tap. It'll have to do as a 7-7.
An embarrassment of riches, as they say. I have all these Scions and nothing to tap.
So here comes the team. A 4-4 Thought-Knot Seer. The 1-1 Eldrazi Scion will join in with Endless One. Here's a swing for 8. It's a 2-turn clock.
Yep, Kent just looking to shut the door on this game. Doesn't look like he'll have too much problems actually doing that.
Chump block there, and we go back to Bargo. And
Bargo's seen enough.
Draws another land. That one's not going to help. A lot of lands plus an Eye of Ugin can help you out if it gets into a grindy late game, but Bargo not able to get to that late game. Kent's Eldrazi far too fast. See there, he's saying no sir, no sir at the camera. All right. Kent Ketter, a player taking a full year's break last year. He was a participant in our first Players Championship. A player from Bloomington, Indiana makes the trip just an hour south here to Louisville to compete. So took a team year off. Then in 2016 has rejoined the SCGLOU Tour as a member of the newly formed Team Lotus. He's with 4 Open Series top 8s. Back in 2014, he was one of the strongest players in the January and February months. Remember, top 8ing 3 Opens in that series. He's looking to replicate that kind of success.
Absolutely. On top of all of that, he is, of course, a veteran, very respectable human being in Kent Ketter.
Yeah, you know, you really see that in him as a person. Takes a year off to, he's a very dedicated person. When he plays Magic, he is here. He's here every week. He's here to win. Takes a year off to go ahead and do something else, and with equal dedication, and now comes back. Though he did say he enjoys mustard on his frozen pizza. So despite all of those positive attributes, I don't know.
You're kind of mixing two.
I think he lost it there.
You're mixing two bad things. I'm not seeing any upside in frozen pizza and mustard, but I would wager that he is fine eating convention center food.
I mean, so we're at least cooking the pizza before we put mustard on it?
I assume so.
Okay.
But if that's what we're happy to eat at home, that's probably a strength that he has as a Magic player. If he can eat this convention center pizza, I believe they have mustard available.
It's training. See, if you at home put mustard on your frozen pizzas and eat it every day, and you train your body to process it, then you are set when it comes to convention centers.
It's really commitment to his craft on a level that you don't see from a lot of players.
You know, I've done these road trips to Magic tournaments. You end up having to eat, you know, Waffle House. You have to work for that. If you're not used to it, that'll knock you out of the tournament.
Waffle House, knocking you out of the tournament is like the low side of negatives that Waffle House poses to threaten.
You know, Kent actually before joining Magic the Gathering spent a lot of time playing professional level paintball, actually.
Okay, I was aware that people take paintball very seriously. I guess I've never even thought about the possibility of competitive paintball. I believe you that it exists. I know that the equipment is expensive, so I would hope that it exists. That's not the sport for me.
When I've been paintballing, I've loved it. I really, at a certain point, you know, I think I am competitive enough that, you know, when I play paintball, I want to be the guy who goes and then buys all the best equipment and gets really good at it. And I wasn't in a position to do that, but I really do enjoy the game.
So you're discussing two of my least favorite things. You're talking about investing in expensive specialized materials with diminishing value upon purchase,
right?
And then being shot at.
Yeah, that second one's pretty rough too.
This is going to be a hard sell for me. Yeah, if you enjoy paintball, more power to you.
It's a good time. Kent Ketter up a game on Craig Bargo.
Yeah, so from the sideboards here, we're seeing the same old worships that we've been seeing all weekend.
Yeah, so we 2 worships apiece.
Right, we see the 1 Vesuva from Ketter's side. We don't have that for Craig. I really want to see Vesuva in action.
Yeah, Vesuva a way just to have more Eye of Ugins, especially in the mirror. What has been the go-to to deal with worships? Both players with 2 worships. They also have 2 copies of Disenchant to deal with it. Ketter has sleeved up Stubborn Denials for this weekend. Bargo has not. He instead has Spellskites.
Yeah, Spellskite not very impressive in the mirror. You can play it to catch a Path to Exile or Dismember, but really at that point you might be boarding out threats, boarding out your own interaction. It's not really worth as much as any of your other cards, I don't believe. Players in the blue-white mirror, they tend to be boarding out Endless One because of the weakness to Eldrazi Displacer. So you're looking for slots to make up there, but beyond that, all of your cards are very good.
Yeah, blue-white Eldrazi, a very stock list seems to have developed this weekend at Louisville. Of the teams we have, Team Lotus, Team Next Ridge Games, and also Disciples of Bolas. All 3 teams completely on the deck. As well as the Roanoke crew. Not a formal team, but, you know, the Jerry Thompson team. Same there.
Yeah, it's wild how they all ended up on the same deck.
All of our players to watch, what was it? We have 8 of the 10 remaining players are playing Eldrazi. We looked at our day 2 metagame breakdown. We can talk about that a little more. 65 players make it into day 2, 31 of them playing Eldrazi, so that's only around 48%. So it's less than half.
Right.
The next most popular deck was Affinity at 5 copies.
So that's pretty close. 5 out of 65 is also less than half.
Indeed, yeah.
So that's like pretty close.
Eldrazi, to put in perspective, was 6 times better at making day 2 than any other deck.
That's not a bad stat.
Certainly says if you're playing something that's not Eldrazi, you better have a plan right now. Craig will start off on Basic Island. For Kent Ketter, it is Eldrazi Temple into Eldrazi Mimic. Craig does have a turn 2 play. It's the Sky Spawner. But for Kent, here's the draw that everyone fears. The turn 2 Mimic, the turn 1 Mimic, the turn 2 Thought-Knot Seer. He'll look at Bargo's hand.
Bargo's hand in game 2 is significantly better than his hand was in game 1.
Yeah, he's got the curve out. He's got the Thought-Knot Seer into the Reality Smasher into Drowner of Hope. We'll see which point on the curve Kent wants to take.
Right, and then we see the Spellskite coming in for Bargo. It's fine. You know, there's no way it's the candidate for being taken by Thought-Knot Seer here, which is part of my issues with the card in the deck. It just looks worse next to all the other ones.
What I believe is that the players, because of now the Eldrazi Displacer is very standard, they're wanting to get away from endless ones in post-board matchups, so Spellskite has value. There are paths, there are dismembers.
It also blocks for Worship against Disenchant, which is worth considering.
You see Thought-Knot Seer, he will take the other copy of Thought-Knot Seer with it. Swings for 4 with his Mimic, Bargo to 16.
This is something that we have seen happen throughout this tournament, though. If we focus too much on the Worship game plan, you just lose.
Get beaten down?
Yeah, you just lose to the Thought-Knot Seer Reality Smasher draws.
Yeah, and remember, Eldrazi Displacer is no help in beating Worship. Sure, it makes their creature leave the board, but it comes back by the end of the ability. So
right.
It is just disenchants that the players have to get around Worship. Or perhaps Stubborn Denial if they've boarded it in. Swing for Sky Spawner will put some damage onto Kent. He drops down to 18. Bargo follows up with a 4th mana source, it's Cavern of Souls. He can go up to 5 with the Scion. But he will just pass the turn, it looks like. Perhaps not. It looks like Spellskite will be made before passing.
Spellskite, really good if you're blocking for Worship. Much less good if you're blocking for Sky Spawner.
Yeah, well, he will have a Reality Smasher next turn.
Right.
And Spellskite can block for that.
Yeah. Setting up that line also enables you to potentially not have to sacrifice the Scion for the Smasher.
Sure. Kent's play is a copy of Eldrazi Displacer. Mimic becomes a 3/3, and the 2 creatures crash in. Spellskite will jump in front of the 3/3, but Craig still takes 4, drops down to 12.
A little bit of pressure on Craig to find some lands to get that Drowner in his hand online.
You do feel right now, Kent's ahead, he's dealing damage, but the first player to resolve a Drowner looks like they'll have the upper hand here.
Yeah, the card's just been insanely impressive in the mirror. In particular, if you still have a Eldrazi Scion from Sky Spawner hanging out, you get a lot of value as soon as it comes into play.
Well, here's a cash out by Craig. Missed the land drop again, and he had to choose whether he wanted to wait to try to get to 6 for his Drowner or just cash in for a Reality Smasher. He chooses the latter, so he gets rid of the Scion, casts Reality Smasher, and swings with just Sky Spawner, so it's a defensive Reality Smasher.
Yeah, he's looking at the Mimic, the Thought-Knot Seer, the Displacer, and thinking, if I don't do something, I could just be dead next turn. He's also live to draw an Eldrazi Temple and just play the Drowner next turn anyway.
Kent plays an island. Keep in mind, Eldrazi Temple actually can make 2 mana for the Eldrazi Displacer. So there are 6 mana for Kent. He could make this Drowner of Hope in his hand. He could also double displace.
Yeah, and I imagine that his plan here is just going to be doing that displacing on Bargo's turn as we see him have no action on that turn.
Yeah, says go. If you're going to pass up on casting Drowner, you have to have some pretty big plans.
Absolutely.
Eldrazi Displacer is the draw for Bargo. He will swing the Sky Spawner and the Reality Smasher.
Yeah, sees the writing on the wall with that Displacer. No reason to not try to get in 5 points.
Kent will try to displace the Smasher. We'll see if Craig wants to have it hit the Spellskite instead. He does not. Bargo will play his own Displacer and pass the turn. End step, Kent looks like he'll do some more displacing. He'll try to hit Craig's 3-3. We'll see whether Craig wants it to be the Spellskite.
Displacer, Displacer.
And Displacer will be displaced. So 3 creatures tapped. We go back to Kent's side. He has Craig at 12. Draw was Eye of Ugin. That one's good here.
Yeah, he previously only had Temple for his fast mana, so he gets to potentially play that one.
Play Caves of Koilos. 6 mana for Drowner of Hope. Makes 2 Scions. Sack 1 to tap the Spellskite, and that will be the match. Kent Ketter wins that one. The 5-5 from Drowner with the Eldrazi Mimic, enough to present exactly 12 damage. And 2-0 Kent Ketter with Blue-White Eldrazi moves on toward the top 8 to 11-2.
Yeah, pumped the Mimic up to a 5-5, and also the Drowner's ability to tap a creature saved him mana and activating Displacer another time. So
great redemption here for Kent. A near miss in Columbus 3 weeks ago, playing for top 8 against Tom Ross. Looks like he's going to have another shot at it this weekend to top 8.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly picked the right deck for the weekend. 11-2 start for a tournament with only 65 players in day 2. Yeah. Really good position for him. Yeah, one more win next round should be a lock for Kent. If he loses it, he still may also be live. Right. For Craig Bargo, 9-3-1 may be the end of the road for him, but still has the chance to a top 16 finish. And when you're on those teams, these points count as much as possible.